Hello everyone. It's Sunday, and a couple of days ago I asked you guys to submit questions to me. And in fact, I got so many questions that I decided to split them up and do two videos. And the reason is that some of them are more of a personal nature, and some of them are more about English and learning English and teaching English. And I got so many questions that I was actually really surprised. Thank you so much for your questions. And they are also very smart, so really, really good questions. And so I had to take my time to think about them, and because I want to actually answer them properly. So I'll try to answer these questions one by one, but some of them are very similar, or they ask about a certain thing, and so I'm going to kind of like bunch them together. So the first two questions in one are from Mark. And Mark was asking me how easy it is to fit into the Canadian culture. And also if there were any shocking differences or something that I found really strange. So I arrived to Canada in 2014. And for the major part, I didn't find it difficult to fit into the culture here. But of course, there were things that were strange or new to me. And since I arrived and spent the first 3.5 years in Toronto, there were things that come from living in a big multicultural city that I found strange and new, and I had to get used to. And then when we visited Hungary, I found it very strange back home that they are different. So you know what I mean. I had to get used to them. And some of them were because this is a large city, and some of them were because this is a multicultural city, and some of them were because this is North America. So it's a mix of things. Nothing was really shocking, but some of the things were a little bit more challenging to get used to, and some of them were easier for me. By nature, I'm the kind of person who is relatively adaptable. So when I'm in a new situation, I'm looking for ways to fit in. I'm looking for ways I can handle that situation. So I'm not really the kind of person who is looking for a particular kind of Hungarian food that I can't get here. So I think the things that I found strangest were the things in day-to-day life that were very different from how we do it back home in Hungary or what I was used to. And I just give you one example. When you want to go through the door and there is someone else at the door, and that other person is a male, so a man, then what I'm used to generally is that the man opens the door and lets me go through first. And here, that doesn't happen that way. So what kind of surprised me is that a lot of times when you arrive at the door at the same time with someone else, even if it's a man, usually that person just opens the door and goes through. Not every single time. So there are exceptions. Sometimes there is a woman and then the other woman tells me, okay, just go ahead or something like that. But a lot of times, if it's a man, they don't pay attention to you. So they kind of pretend that you don't exist. I also think that this is also because it's a large city, and what we say, it's more alienated. So people are not used to paying attention to each other that much, if you know what I mean. They don't look at each other that much. They don't look each other in the eye. And I'm the kind of person who generally looks someone else in the eye, so looks the other person in the eye. When I talk with you one-on-one, I look you in the eye. And so a lot of times people just look on the ground. They don't pay attention to each other. And if you live in a larger building, then usually people don't greet each other. So they get into the same elevator or they meet in the lobby or something like that, and they are not going to say hi, even if you know that this person lives on the same floor as you. These things I'm saying are general. So not everyone is like this. I know a lot of exceptions. In the building I first lived, there were many people who were saying hello to me. I even had friends. So It's not everyone, but generally speaking, it's more like that. And everything that comes with a large city where millions and millions and millions of people live are true about Toronto too. So it wasn't that much Canada, but more like big city living. So those were the things that I found strange. And these are more on the negative side. On the positive side, what I found is that people were very open-minded with me. They were super, super nice with me. And I immediately found friends. Within like 2 weeks, I had a bunch of friends, which was awesome. So I started going to a gym very soon after arriving to Toronto. And I started going to a kettlebell class. And the people in that class were just a great bunch of people. They used to go out together. They used to have coffee after class, things like that. So it was just really, really friendly. Like the vibe in general was really friendly, and I made friends there. And it was absolutely amazing. I love those people, and I miss them every day since I'm not in Toronto. So that was great. And they were super open-minded with me. I never had to face any kind of strange feelings or comments or judgment or anything like that. Despite what people say, I never got the joke, the hungry Hungarian joke. Thank God, because I just despise that joke. But a lot of people I know even know about Hungary, or they've been there, or they know about Budapest. The only thing that I kind of had to explain every time was our language. So very few people know what language we speak and what kind of language it is. That it's not like Russian, it's not similar to Russian, but it's just its own thing. So all good there, all good experiences there. A lot of stuff was new. But if you arrive to a new country, yes, there are going to be things that are weird and strange. So there's another question. Anita asked me, what was the biggest challenge when you moved to Canada? Big challenges were mostly, first and foremost, about the immigration process, because there were some problems and some obstacles we had to tackle, and some of them were really challenging. I don't want to go into details because it's kind of boring, and I would have to explain it into detail so you guys understand. Long story short, these are relatively complicated processes, and there are a lot of pitfalls, so there might be problems, and you have to be very prepared. And so you have to do things right. And we made some mistakes, and then some other mistakes happened which were out of our control. So those things were challenging. And also, technically, when I arrived to Canada, the kind of health insurance I had was a private health insurance. So the kind what you get when you go for a holiday. I just had it for a long period of time. So I did have health insurance, but not the Canadian universal health care. And so if I had a problem, so one time I cut my finger, and I had to go to the emergency room to get a couple of stitches. And because I had this private insurance, they just got into this fuss about like what kind of insurance and who's gonna pay and when and how and so on and so forth. And I just felt that it was really uncomfortable, you know, when you have a problem that you go there with and you just want to get treated, and there is this person asking like what kind of insurance, going on and yada yada yada. And this was not the only time. So this is part of being in a new country, which is not part of the European Union. So when you come to a place like Canada, and the US is the same, then you have to be prepared for stuff like this. These are like red tape and insurance and things like that. So luckily, I speak English, and I spoke English such that I had no problems whatsoever. But still, when you have a case that's different, there might be problems with that. Magdalena asked me a question that I think belongs here. She was asking if I felt homesick when I moved to Canada. The answer is yes and no, because again, it was super new and it was very exciting. And so I didn't really have time to be homesick, so to say. But of course, there were and there are people that I'm missing. So I really, really miss my family. But feeling homesick as is for things that I used to do there, things that I'm missing from the day-to-day life, not really. Again, I mentioned I'm the kind of person who is trying to adapt to the situation she is in and deal with the things that she has to deal with. So I was trying to make friends and work and, you know, adapt to the life, the day-to-day life in Canada, learn about the city, Toronto, how to move around, work on my driver's license and things like that. So not really, no, I didn't really feel homesick. Of course, there are many things that I'm missing. So if you guys know how to send it by light post, just send me some turorudi, that would be nice. But, and you know what? Paprika, zöld paprika, send me some of that, a lot. Thank you. So yeah, there are things that I'm missing. But homesickness, not really. At the core, I'm a European person. I speak like a European, I hope. I think like a European. So some things are different here. People's behavior, people's mentality is different from ours. So time to time, I'm reminded that I'm not like them. I just give you one hint. My sense of humor is very different. So I feel like that was something that I always felt. I kind of feel like very few people understand my sense of humor here, or maybe I'm just not funny. I don't know, like one of those two, right? Dorotya was asking two more questions about Canada. One of them is what's my favorite place in Canada and also in Hungary, and where else I would like to visit in Canada. So my favorite place in Canada so far is Prince Edward Island, and I'll explain why. So Canada is a large country, and since traveling is very expensive, so what you have to imagine is that this is not the kind of place where you get into the car and you can just go to the next big town. You can travel by car, but if you want to go from the East Coast, where I am, to the West Coast, where, you know, British Columbia and Vancouver is, for example, then you better fly because it's really far. It takes a long time to get there and there isn't that much to see. So this is different from the US. Even though people travel a lot by car, but it's not the same. It's not the same. Most people live in and around larger cities because that's where employment is, that's where work is. So for example, this province is called Ontario. Ontario is on the east coast of Canada. So if you imagine the east coast is the same coast where New York is, for example, is the same, just we are north of that. And I live in Eastern Ontario, in Ottawa, which is the capital of Canada. And I used to live in Toronto, which is also Ontario. And if I want to visit British Columbia, which is on the west coast, then I should fly because that's what makes sense. But flying is expensive. Even in normal times, it used to be very expensive. So if you live in Canada and your family is in Hungary, then you really have to think about what you spend your money on, right? Do you want to visit your family or you want to go travel, let's say, to Vancouver? Because they are so expensive that you have to be rational about these decisions, right? And so I have never been to the west coast of Canada. I've been to San Francisco, which is the west coast of the US, but not in Vancouver yet. What I have seen from Canada is some parts of Ontario, a little bit of Quebec, and PEI, which is Prince Edward Island. And in Ontario, I traveled to the north of Ontario, to Tobermory, which is cottage country. So that's more of a place similar maybe to the Balaton, where people go and relax in the summertime. It's a beautiful place with lakes and beautiful sceneries, but it's not cities, it's more like nature. And I loved it. Tobermory is beautiful. And I visited Montreal, which is in Quebec, and that's not very far from here. Actually, it's a 2-hour drive. And I've been to Prince Edward Island, which belongs to the Maritimes. The Maritimes is surrounded by a body of water, the ocean. So that's why we call it the Maritimes. And Prince Edward Island was clearly the most beautiful place I've seen in Canada. It's breathtaking. I loved every minute of it. And if it rings familiar, then it is because Prince Edward Island is where Anne of Green Gables is set. So the book by Lucy Maud Montgomery, Anne of Green Gables, is set in Prince Edward Island because that's where she lived, the author. It's absolutely beautiful. Loved it. So if you guys ever have a chance to come to Canada, you should visit Prince Edward Island. We were staying in Cavendish. Cavendish is close to Green Gables, the imaginary Green Gables, and we were driving around, going to the beach and the ocean, and I was so surprised. You could absolutely swim in the ocean. It's cold, but the weather was beautiful, and the nature is just so beautiful, and the people are amazing. I love the people. People were super nice, very kind, very open-minded, very welcoming, really, really hospitable people. Love them. So that was my favorite place. That's the most beautiful place I've seen. And I also personally really loved living in Toronto, but that's a whole other story. It's not just because of the place, but because of the experiences I had. So moving on to the next question, what's my favorite place in Hungary? I think what's closest to my heart is where I spent my childhood. I grew up in Buda, and I just loved that neighborhood. I still love the neighborhood where I grew up. It's just such good memories. I loved it. My grandparents lived there, and I went to school there, and I just love that neighborhood. I love Budapest in general. I think it's beautiful. I love the Gellért-hegy, Budai Vár, and that was very close to where I grew up, and I still love going back there. So that's number one because of the memories, right? Everyone has these memories. And what else is my favorite town in Hungary is Sopron. Sopron is very close to my heart. I'm not even so sure why. I simply love it. I love Sopron. I love the vibe. I love the people. And I used to go there with my father when I was little, and then I went there with my schoolmates in high school, and I went back a couple of times, and I just loved it. I also love the Balatonfelvidék, which is obvious. It's beautiful. It's just so gorgeous. Who doesn't like it, right? Who doesn't like biking around there, and who doesn't love the Balaton? It's just its own thing. You know, when you say Balaton and Balatonfelvidék, it has its own feel. Restaurants there, little villages there, the wine, the culture is just something that cannot be replicated. So yes, talking about it, you know, I wish I could be there right now. Where would you like to go in Canada? I would like to go to the West Coast. That's one thing. So I really would like to see BC. That's a dream of mine. And I would like to go to Nova Scotia. And I would like to spend more time in the Maritimes. So that's something I'm really, really interested in. And in BC, not just Vancouver, but the entire province. Very interesting to see that. And national parks. So national parks in Canada are famous, and they are truly beautiful. So if I could, I would visit all the national parks in Canada. I actually have a little brochure here about national parks in Canada, and I just often go through it. So there was a question about the USA, if I have been to the USA and where. Yes, I mentioned it before. I have been to the US a couple of times, and not enough. So it's again another amazing country that would be amazing to see. But I have visited New York, Buffalo. Buffalo is where Niagara Falls is. So Buffalo is the US side of the Niagara Falls. So I've been there a couple of times, New York a couple of times, and I've been to San Francisco and Northern California for a slightly longer period of time. I actually have some travel vlogs about that if you guys are interested. So I spent some time in San Francisco and spent some time in Northern California, Monterey, San Diego, and I enjoyed them immensely. So everything I saw there was just a huge experience. US again is full of national parks, national beauty, so much history, so much to see there. Yes, I have some cousins in Florida, and I haven't seen them forever. So I think last time I saw them I was 20 years old, and that was a while ago. So I would love to see them again. One more question here. Did you speak English when you arrived to Canada, and were you fluent? Yes, I spoke English. I've been teaching English for over 10 years, and that implicates that I spoke pretty good English when I arrived to Canada. So if I want to answer that question professionally, I was at proficiency level when I arrived to Canada. I had a Cambridge language cert, a proficiency language cert, a C2 language cert before I came to Canada. I experienced some differences here because there was some slang I had to learn. There were some different accents I encountered here, which was all a lot of fun. But I felt very comfortable with my English when I arrived. The next question is where else I would like to travel and where I have been so far, which countries, I mean. I'm going to try to keep it short. It's not like I've been to a lot of places, no, but I just don't want to talk a lot about everything. So countries I've been to all the Mediterranean countries in Europe. So Italy, Spain, Greece, Portugal. I'm obsessed with Italy. I think you guys already know that too. I love Italy. I love the Italian language. So whenever I could, I just went back to Italy. When I had to travel alone, I went alone. When I went with friends, I went with friends. If I could go with family, I went with family. I just always kept going back to Italy. And I've been to Spain a few times, also beautiful. I loved it. Portugal twice, I think. 3 times, sorry. And Greece a couple of times. So when I was younger, I used to travel on budget, just going to these countries whenever I could. I love the Mediterranean countries, primarily Italy. And I've been to the surrounding countries, surrounding Hungary and Germany and England, just only once, unfortunately. I've been to Jordan and I've been to Egypt, both fantastic countries. I love the people in Egypt, and I just love the people in Egypt. They are just such amazing people, so friendly, so warm, so kind, so sweet. I've been to Turkey, which was also a fantastic experience. I wish I could go back. Istanbul is so beautiful. I just loved it so much. Istanbul was one of the best trips I had. I've been to France only once, so that wasn't that much experience. And then I've been to Central America, so Mexico twice here, which I mentioned before, the US, and here in Canada. So I think that's all. Okay, quickly moving on. So question from Mark again, if I'm planning to hit English-speaking audience. I really appreciate this question. Thank you. I am thinking about it, yes. It's a more complex thing than just switching language, switching languages. So I could switch languages, but I also have to switch a bunch of other things. So for now, I'm thinking about it. There are pros and cons. And I also love you guys. So I love my Hungarian viewers. And that's why I originally started doing the whole thing in Hungarian. But I am interested in switching to English-speaking audience. Do my friends visit me in Canada, and if I visit them back home? This is, again, you guys know that Canada is pretty far and travel is expensive, so not that much, unfortunately. I've had a friend visiting Canada, and I had a friend who visited me in Hungary when I was in Hungary from Canada, which was really awesome. So it was a great experience to take her around in Budapest. That was a lot of fun. And how do I deal with the distance? These are issues that I think everyone who moves pretty far has to face, because friendships are difficult to sustain if you are this far. It's not that you lose your friends if you move away, but they become different friendships. So it's a whole different thing. And a lot of my friends have a family. Some of my friends have children, so that also changes kind of like the trajectory of things. And here is a question about me, if I have any children, or if we have any children. No, we don't have any children. We have a cat who behaves like a child. So Mate is asking, what's your favorite music genre and band? That's a difficult one to answer. I like music, but I'm not really sophisticated in any way. So I'm not a huge pop fan. I like Italian pop. I like old Italian pop. I like contemporary Italian pop. I just like Italian pop in general. And that's because of the language. So I love the language, and I like their music. I especially love old Italian pop. That's really cool. And I like a Canadian singer, The Weeknd, as for pop. I really enjoy his music. I think it's really cool. I love his voice. So that, and if you guys know it, I like electro ethnic music. So it's kind of like ethnic music in an electro version. So I'll maybe put some links in here so you can check it out. That's what I like. So Linda was asking me what kind of sports I like to practice, and if I've tried indoor cycling and what I think about it. And this is one of my favorite questions, and you guys will see why. So my number one sport is fitness. And I think I mentioned it a couple of times, and I'm going to put a short video in here so you guys can see what kind of fitness I like to practice.
I'm digging through the glove box. I thought I had a map in here. The driver's door doesn't lock. I bought the car my junior year. There's candy in my backpack, and you can pick our soundtrack. We're heading for the East Coast tonight, so pack your bags and hold on tight, cause we're taking off. Pack back here, track is in. Pack back here, in. Track your back here, in back coast, hold back there in. Run away with me, we're on the way to New York City. Take my hand and see, Manhattan never looks so pretty. Travel light and see the world right.
I do body weight, and also if I have access to weights and kettlebells. I love kettlebells. I love TRX exercises, and I just enjoy trying new stuff in fitness, not too extreme. Mostly functional exercises. So I don't do bodybuilding and stuff like that, even though I do use weights when I can. But I'm more focused on the functionality of the exercises, so how I can use my body, how I become better at using it, rather than how I pump up my muscles or how I look. Not so interested in that. And the question about indoor cycling is particularly interesting because yes, I've tried it. I'm a certified spinning instructor. So there were a couple of years when that was the number one thing in my life, spinning. And spinning is indoor cycling. So I do like indoor cycling a lot. I love cycling in general. And indoor cycling is different from cycling, of course, because it's indoors and you're not going anywhere and you don't see nature. And a lot of people who cycle outside, they don't like spinning or indoor cycling, but spinning or indoor cycling is a different thing. It's a whole different world. You go with the music, and I had to edit the music myself. So we go with the flow, we go with the rhythm, we go with the music. It's a super intense thing. It's very focused. It's a lot of fun, and it's really zen. So I love it. Yes, true. one of the things I did for a long time and enjoyed for a long time. These days I prefer cycling outdoors, but I still like indoor cycling. So Magdalena was asking me if I would like to live in Hungary again. That's a very difficult one to answer. I don't think I can answer it, actually. I'm not sure. So we'll see. Of course, I would like to visit Hungary as often as I can because I do love my country and I miss my people. But if I would like to move back to Hungary or live in Hungary, I can't really answer that question right now. Thank you so much for all your questions. They were all amazing, and there are a lot more questions here. I know this video took very long, so I appreciate it if you had the patience to stay with me the entire time. And if you have more questions, just shoot, go ahead, ask me. If I can, I'll answer them. And I would like to answer your questions about English learning, language learning in general in a separate video, because this is already too long, right? But I do appreciate every single question you asked me because you put so much thought into it. So I hope you guys enjoyed this downtime, this non-English video. So again, thank you for listening to me today. Thank you for being here. Thank you for coming out. I had a lot of fun. I enjoyed your questions. I enjoyed thinking about them and answering them. And I hope you had fun too. So until next time, take care, stay safe.